Good morning, Arlington Heights School District 25. And good morning. This is the first time we're doing it in the morning. What a pleasure for all of you to wake up here with myself, Mr. Andrew Benton, and Mr. Chris Fano. I want to be the first to welcome back Andrew Benton, who's been on a little bit of a hiatus from our 25 with Tech 25 due to welcoming his third child,
Yes.
a baby boy.
Yes, Tegan James, 9 pounds. All is well.
And we are happy to everything's going well, and
Yeah.
that you got a third. Andrew's a little bit tired this morning, like many of you may be.
I expect.
But he's been a trooper and
Yeah, let's do it.
hanging in here with us. So we wanted this morning to talk about two subjects. One is Google Hangouts, which is a great tool. It's sort of integrated into all of the Google setup for communication, for collaboration, and all of that sort of fun goodness. And then we want to kind of move on in the second half to something called Google Forms, and it's just a great tool for gathering all sorts of information. We'll kind of go into that a little bit more later. So we do have Chris Fano joining us from home. However, he just informed me via text that his computer restarted itself. So he should be popping back up here shortly, and we will talk to him when that happens.
So it wasn't Google Hangouts' fault.
Correct.
That was actually his machine.
It was his computer.
Because what you're actually watching here, anytime you're watching this, we're using the Google Hangouts tool, but in this instance with Chris at home, we're actually using Google Hangouts to stream him in. So.
Right. So I guess while we wait for Chris to join us once again, what I'd like to do is kind of show you where you can access Google Hangouts if you're not already aware. So I am just going to share my screen here. I'm gonna flip that out of the way. And we find ourselves here in our Bubbles, the Tecker Turtle example account. And where I am, I'm just in Gmail right here. And this is really the best place to access Google Hangouts from. And for a couple different reasons. There's actually a couple different versions, I guess, or different aspects of Google Hangouts that we can use. And the first thing is down in your lower left-hand corner, if you don't see any lists of different people that you contact regularly, there are these three little icons down here in the lower left. And if I click on any one of them, it'll open up, and I guess if you've never been on it before, it might just show your name and then be a blank white space below it. If you have actually contacted people, you might see a list of names. And really all this is a contact list. It's the people that you have already corresponded with. And you can just kind of, if you have, like Tecker Turtle has with myself, if you just hover over that person's name, you get a little pop-up. And over here, you can then click a couple of different options. One is you can email, you can do a one-on-one video call, or you can start a little hangout, a little chat hangout is how it begins right off the bat. Now, if we don't see somebody that you'd like to contact, there's a little magnifying glass, our little search tool. If we click on that, we can start to search for different people in the district. Andrew Benton, I think Bubbles would probably like to correspond with
awesome.
From time to time. And so if I click on Andrew, we see that one of those Google Hangout, the little chat window opens up immediately, and we see that Andrew's name has been added to the list. So it's as simple as that to add new contacts to your contact list. Now, one thing I do want to point out is if you don't see your contact list on the left-hand side, it's possible that it might be over on the right. You can kind of customize it in your Google settings, and I found from doing one-on-one trainings with people that it's not necessarily always in one place. So if that contact menu is not over here on your right, but you'd really just want to kind of look for these icons to be able to access that portion. One of the other neat things, so once we've opened a chat window, we can just start typing. We can message easily. And this is actually one way I recommend getting in contact with us here at Tech 25. It's something that you don't have to take all this time out to make a phone call. You know, it's possible that we'll be up around doing something else, not available at the moment. If you send a little chat, you know, when we sit back down, we'll see it. I try my best to answer those right away. And it's sort of a little bit less invasive way of communicating, whether it's you in a classroom running your class and you don't have the time to sit down and have a phone conversation about a question. You can just send a little chat and we can correspond that way and get your issues resolved. Another kind of neat feature of this chat, kind of taking it on to the next level then, is you can do a one-to-one video call where if you click on that, it'll pop up into a Google Hangouts window. It'll very possibly ask about this plugin, and we can trust it. And then it'll call and attempt to call whoever you're calling. Now, the one thing is because we're already in a Hangout, it's probably not going to let me call out directly right now because we've already technically started a Hangout. But you would get a window that would look like this. For the recipient, they would get a little invitation, and they can join in. And it'll look something like this. So we've got Chris Fano has gotten his computer restarted, and he is joining us from home here in Arlington Heights. And so I'm going to switch it over so that we're viewing Chris.
Good morning, everybody.
What happened, Chris?
Yeah, what did happen?
Nothing. I guess Google Hangouts doesn't like when your computer goes to sleep or it restarts. So
Interesting. So I guess everybody be aware of that.
yeah, beware. A little tip of the day. A little tip of the day for you.
I guess kind of our main point here is that you don't have to be in the same place to kind of collaborate. It's a great tool. We kind of have been pushing the idea of, especially with Twitter last week, of connecting with your fellow District 25 staff members. And again, you don't have to be in the same place for that to happen. You know, Chris is over at home, we're here at the office, and we can kind of collaborate this way, see each other, share information, share our screens with one another if we were trying to walk somebody through how to do something.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think the technology has become so much more effective that these types of meetings are much more connected than they were before. And sharing information and being able to discuss topics without having to travel is a benefit.
And so one of the kind of neat features of Google Hangouts is you can do what's called a Google Hangout with up to, I believe it's 10 people. Is that correct, Chris? Mm-hmm. And Chris has organized a couple where, you know, if a staff member somewhere in the district had wanted to talk about some specific topic, or somebody was kind of curious about a specific topic, and we knew of somebody else who had integrated into their classroom or has been using that particular idea, we've brought different people across the district together to kind of discuss a certain topic. And again, we don't have to have everybody come way down south here to Dutton or have to make it to one building. We could do it from wherever everybody can be in the comfort of their own classroom or their home. So if there are any topics that you'd ever like to talk about or collaborate with, that's something that we can facilitate here at Tech 25. Absolutely,
and a great way to collect that information is also using another product from Google called Google Forms that we may talk about in just a minute.
What an excellent transition, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
I think we're really starting to hit our stride with this whole broadcasting thing. Look at the smooth transitions, the witty banter. Tell your friends about it.
It's a lot of that going on. Hope everyone's enjoying their breakfast right now. You want me to jump over to Google Forms, or you have a couple things to finish up on Hangouts?
Yeah, if you wanted to start to talk about Google Forms, I know Andrew has a couple things to talk about with it as well, but if you want to run people through kind of how to start a Google Form.
You know, at this point, I'd love Andrew to kind of take the steering wheel on that, and I'll just kind of be a backseat driver for right now.
Usually how it goes. I mean, no, really, the only piece I wanted to throw in, and maybe it's important to put this out in front of the actual how-to, create a Google form and collect the data, is that you know, sometimes we think of, you should think of Google Forms as a survey. And my biggest point here today is that it can be a really quick and easy survey. So sometimes you're putting, you know, you're seeing these surveys that maybe the district puts out, and it's 40 questions, and there's going to be this huge study and audit, and that we're going to have charts and graphs, and in 3 months the results will come out. And you know what? You can actually use this just for sending a question out to your staff in your building on what t-shirt size they wear. So it can be that simple. It can be you're asking for volunteers to an event, and so you create this very simple 1 question, 2 question form. It ends up being a link in there, or even embedded into the email, which you'll see, where the user has such an easy experience just to say yes, no, to say XL, to say if you asked, you know, staff, are you using a certain app, or what apps would you like to see and why? If you want to, talking about signing out AV equipment, maybe laptop cards. You know, we could extend this field trip permission slips to parents. You're basically asking sometimes very simple or complex, whatever, set of questions, and you get the answers in a spreadsheet form, and you get them immediately when they answer their question. Again, super easy to create, maybe 5 minutes if it's a 1 or 2 question survey. The answer is so easy for the user that you're not going to deal with that, oh, you know, I didn't have time. So I just wanted to throw that out about Google Forms before getting into the how-to. Chris probably has some other I don't know, examples, or maybe, you know, general thoughts on Google Forms as well.
Yeah,
So Chris, I think I've switched it over so that we're seeing your screen, and it looks like you might be able to walk us through kind of the simple setup of this.
Yeah, and just kind of going on with what Andrew was saying is, not only can it be extremely simple in terms of just gathering some information that you need to collect, but I also want to make sure that people understand there's also a that can make it very powerful, but also conditional. So let's take a look at that real quick. So here I am in Google Drive, kind of the place where you go for all of your normal documents and sheets. Under New, you have to slide out to More now, and then you'll see that they have Google Forms. We're not going to walk you through every one of these today. There are a lot of different options and settings that you can have on yours. But there are a couple of points that I want to show you that go beyond a typical surveyor. One of the things that you may want to see right away under the form settings that would be important if you're doing any kind of an assessment for students would be the shuffle question order. That's something that's relatively new. And so if you're trying to have the integrity of an assessment so that students aren't seeing the same questions in the same order, you can click that. So imagine you are doing a quiz, and you have 10 questions. Each time the student would load up this quiz, you would see them in a different order, so that you're able to see the same set of questions our neighbors would. Here you name your form or your assessment. And again, hitting on what this is all about: data collection and analysis. So anytime you want to get information that you want to either be able to look at in a spreadsheet or collect in terms of other forms, this is a great place to do it. So just for example, we'll do just a quick quiz. No, let's actually do get to know you. So this would be the name of the form here. You could give a quick description here. And really, the power of this all resides in the question types. And again, there's a depth to this that you'll have to get familiar with. We wanted to show you some of the key points of the form itself. So what's really important to know here is about the structure. There you go. And so here you have the question title. So we can have something as simple as, what's your name? Okay, but I'm going to show you something a little different here, and we could say, what the help text just says, make sure you list your grade. And here again is where you really get into the power of what this tool offers you. you have all of these different options. And in essence, the two top choices are about letting someone write in free-form text. Then you have your traditional multiple choice, where you can only select one of the options. You have checkboxes, where you can select multiple options. Choose from a pre-form list, or a couple other options we'll show very briefly in just a second. So right now we'll just do multiple choice because that's what this is. So we could just say 3rd grade, 4th, 5th, 1. Okay, so that's just a typical kind of basic question. When you hit done, it will show you what it looks like. But I want to show you another way in which this is really can be developed into a complex kind of data collection tool. When you go to add item, okay, you can see there are the basic questions that we just talked about, choosing from a list, multiple choice. Then they have these advanced question types. And then they have layout. And this is where it's going to get important. I'm going to show you this real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a page break. Okay? And we're just going to, for simplicity, we're just going to call this page 2, just so we can keep it referenced. Then when I go back, so you can see this is on page 1, and then we have page 2 here. I'm going to add another question type, and I'll just do another multiple choice one. I can say, or which school do you attend? Here I'm just going to do 2 for right now. I'll just do South and Thomas. Where this gets particularly interesting in 2 different ways is there's a box right here where it says go to page based on answer. And if I check that, I get a couple of extra boxes here on the right-hand side. And so now I'm having really, in essence, a conditional question of saying, if you respond south, I want you to go to page 1. Okay, stay on the same page. But if you say Thomas, I'm going to say go to page 2, and now I can have 2 different sets of questions, whether you responded south or whether you responded Thomas. So if you think about the possibilities of even that idea of going to a different page that would have a different set of questions based on a response, it opens up a whole nother set of possibilities when looking at data collection or a form. So again, that's one thing that I think is particularly intriguing, that changes the way even a multiple choice question can be handled. So in this case, if someone did south, they would continue on with whatever questions were here. If they clicked Thomas, they would jump to this page, okay, page 2 as we had created, and they would fill out a sequence of questions. So that's one side. You have this idea of conditional questions. The other one that I think is really interesting that a lot of people, as they get into data collection, really want to take a look at is data validation. Okay, so here we're going to go again back to our other question. Let's go to page 2, and let's add in, let's see, a checkbox. All right, how often do you have homework? Now, so you, again, can put in all of your different options for how you want people to respond, but under this little advanced settings tab, you see that we have a couple options. Number one is going back to what I said before, not only can you shuffle the questions, but when you have multiple choice or checkboxes, you can also shuffle the option order within the question. And so you have that option too. But the one that I think is interesting that a lot of people don't see all the time is this data validation. And when you select that, you have some choices depending on what question type you have. So for example, in this question, we can validate that says they have to select exactly 4 of the choices that I'm going to put up here, or else they'll see, please select. Okay. So what this is saying here is when someone gets to this question, they may have 10 different options, but we're going to say, we want you to select exactly 4 of them. And we can actually validate that before they can move on to the next question. Or you could see here it says select at most or at least. Again, we can validate either way to say, make sure that the answer equals this before you let them go on. So we can just, again, if there were 5 options, and then if they didn't do it, they would get that text. Okay. So again, those were a couple. I don't want to take too much more time on the details of forms. I know many people have used them, but even those areas of shuffling the question order, doing some separation based on the answers, moving them to different pages with different sets of questions, and validating data are kind of that intermediate step. So if you've ever used forms, those are things that you can look at to increase your use of them. But even if this is your first time seeing forms, you get the general idea that it could be a basic data collection tool, but it also has a lot more to it as you are progressing with how those are being developed for your classroom, for your department, or for your school. So again, I think Andrew started off. It's a very diverse tool that you could use for a number of different functions.
Thank you, Chris. So I think, so obviously, Forms is this amazing and powerful tool that I've myself have not, like, I've always thought that it'd be a great tool for assessment, but I've never had the use for it, not being a teacher myself. One little trick I wanted to show before just to kind of end the day, because I have to keep track of a whole bunch of things all the time in my position here. And the one kind of neat, very, I guess, like, simple way, and one way that you can almost guarantee that you're going to get your responses is by making a simple little form and embedding it straight into an email. And we'll kind of finish on this, I suppose, and leave you with this. And so let me switch on over. To share Bubbles' account once again. And so over here in Drive, which is where you're always going to start, as Chris had shown, to create a form, select New. It might be in your main list. It might be under this More section, and we're going to create a form. Okay. And so here's something as simple as your name, and we're going to choose this to be a text question so that people can just type in a short answer, which we are going to require. We're going to add this second item, which is t-shirt size. A little early for spelling. And I'm going to choose from a list, and we're just going to do, our normal t-shirt sizes. And so once I've established this, which we were going to require as well, we just have very simple form with just 2 questions. One thing I know people like to do is kind of dress it up a little bit. If we click on this change theme option, there's all sorts of fun little things to kind of dress it up a little bit so that it looks, a little more sleek than just some blank form. People typically get a kick out of this. But what we want to do in this case is I want to send our form, and so we're going to get a little window that's going to pop up and give us some options, and one is just going to be email addresses. So if you are, again, so if this is, say, let's hypothetically say you're looking to place your t-shirt order for opening day for your particular school, you can send out this to your TMS staff or whatever staff list that you belong to. In this case, I am just going to send it to myself for example purposes. Put on your subject line. Spelling is very difficult for me here this morning. And then please fill out. And so if I hit send, it then, of course, then asks me how we want our responses to be organized. Now, if you are making all sorts of forms, you can actually keep adding your different responses to the same form, just in different pages, so that you keep all of your responses in the same place. You could also just choose to keep it new, and we're going to keep it new and just call this t-shirt. I am going to create, which means that it's sent as well. So if I come over here to my email, and I have an email here from the Techer Turtle, and we open up, and right here, straight in our form, or so I'm sorry, straight in my email is the form where I can submit my answer, you know, type in my name, pick my shirt size, and submit it right there. And now this, basically this feature guarantees, or almost guarantees, that everybody's going to fill it out, because, you know, when you have more and more links and buttons and pages to click on and go to, that's where you start to lose the interest and the willingness of people to kind of follow you all the way through. If it's just embedded straight into an email, and it's, like, as you can see, pretty simple, it's right there. It's you can't miss it. And we can see then that if we come back here to my drive, we have my untitled form. I just didn't title it, and we saw that in the email as well. So make sure you title your forms, I suppose, before you send them. But right above it is our t-shirt responses. If I click on that, I see that right here at 8:56 is my submission for my medium t-shirt, organized right there.
Right, and this is in basic spreadsheet format, so you can do all the formulas, you can do, you know, tallies and totals and everything like that. It's also something you want to think about when you're suggesting, when you're putting the answers into your form. If it is going to be a tally, you might want to make sure that the answers themselves are something that can be tallied. I think in general, because we're a little bit over time, that you're noticing hopefully today the breadth of possibilities with Google Forms. And you personally, there used to be, you know, things like SurveyMonkey and Advanced Survey and all these major tools that, you know, the district would have to purchase, and you'd have to go through somebody to make a survey happen. Hopefully you see that almost anything you want to collect from any user on the district network can happen. It can be simple, it can be complex, it can be everywhere in between.
All right, so we will leave you with that. Thank you for joining us here for our first, hopefully more, morning sessions here for 25 with Tech 25. I think we still have Chris on there. I don't know if he's...
There he is.
Oh, there he is. So
Yeah,
we'll put Chris up there to say goodbye. And thank you for joining us once again. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
All right, see you shortly.
That's it.